Right then, everybody, Premier League football returns this week, this actual week, this is it. And all of the questions are, what team are we going to play? What formation are we going to play? How are we going to come out of this? What is Solskjaer going to do to play Pogba and Bruno together? How are United going to line up? And I think one of the beauties that we've seen under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is that United don't have one set style of play, because I don't like it when someone just has, it's plan A, and if that don't work, well, fuck it. I think it's always good to have a couple of systems in the pocket. And if you look at what Solskjaer did at Molde, where he was very successful, he quite often changed his formation. He went through different phases where he perhaps played one formation, then he might tweak it. A certain player comes in and he accommodates them. But he's also not too proud to change the formation to fit the team that he's playing. And I don't know why that has got a bad rep of late, because guess who used to do that as well? Sir Alex Ferguson, on a regular basis, used to tailor his formation and lineup to the opposition. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you played the same way for 45 games in a season. Well done you. What matters is that you win the maximum amount of games that you can do. So I don't give a shit if he changes it to a formation no one's ever seen before. That being said, I do think there are quite a few very good options that I do think we might see from Solskjaer in the final stages of Project Restart, if not in the Europa League, once we get to that phase of it as well. Now, throughout the season, we've seen him pretty much roll with the 4-2-3-1. I think looking at going forward, 4-2-3-1 with De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, Shaw, McTominay and Fred, Pogba, Greenwood, Martial and Rashford. I think that would be the sort of lineup we could expect to see in a 4-2-3-1. This system has been used for 19 out of the 29 matches in the Premier League. Of those 19, we've won 9, we've drawn 5, and we've lost 5, which means we picked up 32 points out of a possible 57. We are yet to lose against the top 6 when using this formation. We played Chelsea where we won, we've played Arsenal where we drew, we played Leicester where we won, and Spurs where we won. However, there have been times against smaller teams that this formation has failed us. Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth, Watford. This system obviously has 2 ball-winning midfielders or 2 sort of deeper-lying midfielders. Generally, Fred and McTominay, who will then look to try and find Paul Pogba. That's the creative spark in the team, or maybe try and go to one of the wide players. And that's been able to get shut down when we played this formation. Both of the deeper sitting midfielders have been in pretty good form as individuals this season, and that's been backed up by their numbers. Both of them have averaged 2 tackles a game. This is Fred and McTominay. 2.2 for Fred and 2 for McTominay. Over 1 interception per game. 1.4 for Fred and 1.3 for McTominay. Fred would probably be the slightly more advanced out of the 2, with McTominay always seemingly sitting. And obviously Fred is a little bit more skilled in terms of his passing range, hitting on average 1.4 key passes per game, 61.4 passes per game, 87% of those being successful. He's just a more progressive footballer than Scott is. He's just better on the ball, but Scott is far superior when it comes to the defensive side, the physicality, the height, everything he's got that Fred doesn't have. That's where the weakness lies in this formation, is that neither of those 2 are that world-class player that could maybe do that job on their own, giving you the option of playing extra midfielders. Which brings us on to our extra midfielder option, which is 4-4-2 Diamond. Now, when you look at who United are linked to, and you see us linked with Havertz and Grealish, and you're like, hang about, how the fuck are all these lot going to play in the same team? 4-4-2 Diamond is how, I think. It's very narrow formation, and it would suit a team that's going to have fullbacks that overlap, which might not necessarily suit Wan-Bissaka. But this is a way that you get all of your ball-playing midfielders in there, and you get that maximum sort of coverage in the middle of the pitch. Playing 4-4-2 Diamond, you could see United line up with De Gea. Probably Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Williams, because he offers a little bit more in that final third. McTominay doing that sitting role. Fred and Pogba, because Pogba is a bit more box-to-box, and Fernandes putting the final touches on stuff. Igalo maybe and Rashford offering something different. I didn't go with Martial and Rashford. Just wanted to see how that would look, maybe slightly different. This season, United have only played 4-4-2 on 2 occasions, and it was never with a midfield diamond. In fact, it was with a double 6 system. This system was implemented in the game against City away, where we won 2-1, and also in the 1-1 draw at home to Everton. The system suggested here with the Midfield Diamond also allows you to utilise the midfielders that we have at the club and the midfielders that we are being linked with. The key thing here, it allows the partnership of Bruno Fernandes and Pogba to thrive, although perhaps not maybe as much as one that we're going to be coming to in a second. Both players hit a similar number of key passes per game, with Pogba edging it with 2.3 in comparison to Bruno's 2.2, but it's both pretty exceptional from the pair of them. It's clear to see Bruno is a much more attacking midfielder. He averages 3.8 shots per game compared to Paul's 2, so you do want him perhaps a little bit further up there. When it comes to keeping the ball and passing, Pogba has a better success rate than Fernandes, but you've got to remember Fernandes is constantly shooting and constantly trying to make things happen in the final third, and that could be down to the type of balls that each player sort of attempts. They both have a total of 5 assists in the Premier League, and from 12 games, and you can expect that number to increase as soon as they start playing together. In terms of the strike partnership, Ighalo's there instead of Martial because he just offers something totally different. No wide players to feed into the channels. You need someone who can hold the ball up and allow players time and the midfielders to get in there and support what's going on so they can provide more support for the likes of Rashford or Ighalo. That's why I've gone with that sort of a lineup in that sort of a system and why you might use it. What my favourite system for the two best assets, which is probably Pogba and Bruno, the system that I would like to see Ollie sort of gravitate to is, of course, the 4-3-3. I think this suits it perfectly. In a 4-3-3, this is how we could line up. We could go with Maguire and Lindelof. I think we're going to Maguire and Lindelof in all the back fours. Wan-Bissaka, that's nailed. But I've gone for Williams at left back. The midfield, McTominay, Fernandes, Pogba, Greenwood on the right, Martial down the middle, Rashford on the left. We haven't used the basic 4-3-3 system this season other than the game against Arsenal at the Emirates, and it was a bit more of a defensive shape, and we did lose 2-0. Although this time, and with these players, this formation would allow both the playmakers in Bruno and in Pogba to be unleashed, and of course that rapid front three, which accumulated 59 goal involvements in all competitions between them, 47 goals and 12 assists. This system would be really interesting to watch. The quality of balls that are going to get played into the forwards from Bruno and Pogba would be ridiculous. It would definitely increase the amount of expected goals that you would expect to see without a shadow of doubt, and would be useful against those games where we've stuttered. You're not going to perhaps go to Anfield with this sort of lineup. This is where you know those games against Bournemouth and West Ham where you go, how the fuck have we not won there? Because we're not creating enough chances. Because they go, Pogba's the only outlet. Shut him down. Very often last season, or even this season, if you could shut that route from Pogba to Rashford down, there was no creativity in this United side. That was it. We was relying on penalties. We was relying on a bit of magic from a guy. But there was no systematic way to attack if it was Pogba to Rashford, and the opposition knew this and closed it down. And we saw teams do that. Now you've got Bruno and you've got Pogba, and Greenwood is a very real threat. Martial, very real threat. Rashford, very real threat. There's options and you can't cover all the bases. That's what I'm hoping to see from United. Is this a very attacking formation? Undoubtedly. Is there any real difference to what you see with Manchester City when they're playing Silva and De Bruyne? I mean, you can argue the toss in terms of quality, but it's the same sort of principle. It's looking for two players that are both going to push into the box, both going to create, and both trying to make things happen. Not to mention, obviously, the finishing that you've got with Martial, Greenwood and Rashford, who've been on fire, and you know, you could easily argue that with the amount of games left to play, 20 goals is within reach of every single one of our forwards, which is crazy. This system gives us our best front three, and it gives us our most creative midfield. The defence has been pretty solid this season compared to previous seasons, and I would love to see that United come out the gate with a 4-3-3. I think that would be very, very useful, and I think it would be our most effective formation for that just generic run-of-the-mill mid-table game against a team you're supposed to beat, but we often stutter against. The last formation then, we've seen Ollie use a 3-4-1-2 or a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2, however you want to call it, and it could be similar to what we've got lined up here. When using the 3-4-1-2 formation this season, we've beaten Chelsea twice, City twice, we've drawn with Liverpool, which suggests it could be something decent to have with some of the big games that are left. There's realistically only Spurs and Leicester in that, in terms of the top four race. This lineup also gives you options. As you can see, we've gone with Wan-Bissaka as a right side centre half, and we've brought in Dalot as the right attacking fullback, someone who's perhaps not as strong defensively, but has definitely got some assets when he goes forward. Delo this season's mainly been used in competitions away from the league, such as like Europa League games, where he's averaging 2.3 dribbles per game, which is pretty good, 0.7 key passes and crosses per game. Shows his ability to get something happening in the final third. The team that we've gone for, as you can see, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof. I actually think, we haven't tried it, but I think Wan-Bissaka played as the extra centre-half over Luke Shaw would be a better option. But I have gone with Delo, Pogba, Fernandes, McTominay, Williams, Ighalo, Rashford. I think that gives us such a range of options, absolutely deadly on the counter-attack, solid, and I think we could do it with this. Defensive ability is clearly miles away when it comes from Delo to Wan-Bissaka, but that's something that we can't miss. Look at how effective Wan-Bissaka was just against Raheem Sterling. That's the sort of defensive-only ability that we need. In those big games, when we look at the opposition, we go, those have got threats that are absolutely going to tear us to pieces. Wan-Bissaka, he's going to have them switching positions. They're going to have to go elsewhere because they're getting no trade with him down that side. Wan-Bissaka averages 3.8 tackles a game from the wide position, 2 interceptions per game, only concedes 0.5 fouls per game, which is like when he gives a penalty away or he gets sent off, you go, we take that. We take that for how good he is all the other times. Adding him into the back three, utilising Delo's attacking ability would definitely suit this formation and the counter-attacking Manchester United very well, especially when Wan-Bissaka isn't there in terms of getting forward. He only manages 0.3 crosses per game. Although he has been improving, he does have an average of 0.8 key passes per game as well. As for how I think United are going to line up against Tottenham Hotspur this Friday night, how fucking awesome is that? Make sure to come and join us on Stretford Paddock for the watch-along. Do not miss it. I cannot confirm or deny if we're getting absolutely twisted, but I am looking at the timetable for the trains. If you want to know how I think United should and will line up against Tottenham on Friday night, then you need to come and check out the preview that I'll be doing on Thursday, where I'll go into that with the specifics of the strengths and weaknesses of Tottenham. But that's the options that I think United have got on the table. We've got flexibility within the formation, and when I look at what Solskjaer's trying to sign, I think he wants flexibility within the squad. We started this year with the worst Manchester United squad in 30 years. We're ending this season with the introduction of Williams into the squad from the academy, the introduction of Ighalo and Bruno, and the emergence and success of the transfers of Dan James, who we've not even mentioned in this video, Harry Maguire, who's really stepped into his role as that £80 million centre-half and captain, and Wan-Bissaka. We're ending this season with, it's not certainly nowhere near the greatest Manchester United squad in the last 30 years, but it might be a little bit of a step above the worst squad we've seen in the last 30 years. Certainly it's one of the better squads, or better balanced squads, and certainly one of the most likeable squads that we've had post-Fergie. I think the manager has to take a lot of credit for that. But we will get into the specifics of how United need to be lining up against Tottenham Hotspur on Thursday. So make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and come and join us. We'll be live with that if you've got any questions. So come and get in the mixer with that. Cheers for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.